Hello everyone, welcome to another video with my life in the middle. This is your girl Anisha, and today I wanted to come to you and talk about my wonderful trip to Egypt. Yes, so as some of you may or may not know, my husband and I visited Egypt for a total of 2 weeks. We are now back, and I wanted to come and just tell you about my trip and everything that it entailed. And if you are considering it, or if you've ever been curious about it, I'm trying to give you as much information as possible to kind of encourage you to definitely go on this trip. Okay, so just a little bit of background. Every 2 years, so every other year, my husband and I take just a trip with him and I overseas. We would do either a longer, bigger trip, and then on the alternate years, we would do more of a smaller trip, usually to the Caribbean. So this year was our year to do a much bigger trip, and it was his choice to go to Egypt. Yeah, so my husband has a lot of interest in the pyramids and wanting to see them in person, see how they were made, if he could figure it out himself. My husband is a third generation Mason, and so looking at the stones and the architecture is something that is very much of interest to him. So it was his choice to go there. And so we actually started planning this trip from, I want to say, around October of 2023, right? So it was pretty much booked, and the itinerary was planned from then. And then what we went ahead and did is we put our down payments, and from there we made our individual payments until it was time for us to go to this trip in May of 2025. So this was not something that we just upped and decide. It was definitely foreplanned and intentional, especially to be going such a far distance for a 2-week span, and then with the time changes and such, I actually took a full 3 weeks off work. So that was something that needed to be planned in advance. For my career, that's not something I could just spring up and do, So definitely was intentional. I'm not gonna lie to you, when my husband first said he wanted to go to Egypt, I was like, Egypt? Really? I don't know. I got lupus. I'm already sensitive to the sun and the heat, and I don't know about going to no Egypt at the start of summer. And why we chose to go during that time is that for my career, that is my slower period. So that's the time that I will have that I can actually take a full 3 weeks off to go, is in the late April, May months. And I did not want to try to stretch it to June, because then it would be really hot. So, when he said it, I wasn't very excited about it. But once we contacted our travel agents and started planning and, start seeing it come to life, I was like, this might sound, or I should say, this might be kind of good. This might be good. So let me explain how we did our trip. So the first part of our trip, we were going to go to Cairo, Egypt, and we were going to go see the pyramids and stuff like that. The first part of our trip. The next part, we would have flew from Cairo to Aswan, Egypt, and there we would get on the Senessa St. George to go on a 3-night cruise on the River Nile. And the cruise would end in Luxor, Egypt, and from there we would drive from Luxor, Egypt to Hurghada, Egypt, and stay on a beach resort, or stay in a beach resort on the Red Sea. And we would be there for about 5 days, and that would be the more relaxing part of the trip. And then from there, we would fly again from Hurghada back to Cairo and do some more tours of the citadel, the mosque, the bazaar, things like that, before heading back to the United States. So a pretty extensive trip with a lot involved. OMG. Even saying it out loud, it just sounds crazy, like crazy busy. But the way it was formulated, there were breaks, there were times to rest. So it didn't feel overwhelming or too hectic at all. Now, I have been working with my travel agent for, I want to say, approximately 12 years. She has known my husband and I very well. She has planned various trips for us, including our honeymoon. And so I think she has a good sense of the kind of stuff I like, the kind of accommodations I like. And, she knows I'm a little bougie, so she definitely tried to help us plan a trip accordingly. Now, she also worked with another travel agency, to kind of coordinate everything. So the actual agency that was used in Egypt is called Emeco Travels. And how it was great. I mean, when I tell you they held our hands the entire time, really. And I know, with everything that's going on in the Middle East right now, with, the war that started with Israel and Gaza, there was definitely some concerns about safety, and also going to that part of the world where obviously I've never been, my husband has never been, we don't know anyone. There's always a little bit of anxiety there. So we wanted our trips to be more of a one-on-one tour or personal tours. We didn't want to do any group tours or anything like that, especially with the fact with my health condition, if there is a point where I'm getting overheated or I'm not feeling well, I didn't want to feel embarrassed to say, hey, listen, I'm not feeling well, let's go. I didn't want to feel like I'm inconveniencing a group or, things like that. So I definitely wanted to be able to have that sense of control. And so in planning the trip, I told my travel agent that, hey, I really don't want it to be something where where it felt very rigid or too structured, or I couldn't feel like I could, makes any changes or maneuver the way I felt comfortable. And so with the Emeco, what they did is they definitely personalized all the tours, and we had a one-on-one guide almost the entire time. And we had a coordinator while we were there that checked in with us physically, not just by phone, came and saw us every morning to make sure that we were okay. So let's go from the beginning. So, we flew from Miami International Airport to Paris, and that was about a 9-hour flight. We had a 6-hour layover in Paris, and I was able to shop in Terminal 2E. Please go check out that shopping vlog video if you haven't already. And then from there, we flew from Paris to Cairo, Egypt, which was about a 4-hour flight. On both flights, we did premium economy, and so it is a step down from business class on Air France. Our flights did not have first class. They only had business class, premium economy, premium, and then coach or economy. So with the premium economy, we were able to have reclining seats, extra leg room, a footrest, I guess an upgraded meal service with alcoholic beverages. They gave us we would call it like a toiletry pouch that had like an eye mask, toothbrush, toothpaste, socks, things of that nature. So it was very comfortable for us because it was a long flight, and my husband is 6'7" and I am 5'8", so we need to be able to stretch out a little bit. Now, I did try to upgrade to business class while at the airport, but it was completely sold out. I was only able to upgrade to business class on the flight from Paris to Cairo, which was 4 hours. And I didn't think it was worth it to do it at that time. I definitely wanted it for the 9-hour flight, but it was completely booked. So we couldn't do it. And then, but it was very comfortable for us. We didn't have a problem, right? On arriving to Cairo airport, we arrived there at 3 a.m. their time. Or I should say we arrived at the airport at 1 a.m. their time and then went through their customs and stuff. After we arrived, going down the terminal, there was someone there from Emeco Travel with our name waiting for us. They guided us through customs, so we didn't have to wait in any lines. They got our bags for us. And then after they made sure we had all our paperwork, we did need a visa to go to Egypt. After they made sure everything was in order and got everything for us, so it was very smooth, very seamless. Then they ushered us outside the airport where there was our travel coordinator and a driver waiting for us. So the travel coordinator basically went over our itinerary with us, went over our pickup time for our tours, and asked us if we wanted to make any additions or changes or anything like that. They made sure we had bottled water in the vehicle. He was great. I mean, when I tell you he was great, he was top notch. He went over everything. He made us feel comfortable. He talked to us. He told us about different things that's going on in Egypt at a time, and how they're building a whole new capital city, because right now Cairo is the capital of Egypt, but now they're building another capital city because Cairo's population, I think he said it was like 27 million, and so they needed more room to, you know, house everyone, and also more room for, you know, technological development to kind of to make their capital to be more inviting to tourists. So they kind of wanted to look like Dubai. That was the feel that I got. So he kind of told us about that, you know, joked with us about crazy Cairo, because the driving there is mad. They do not stay in one lane. There is not one traffic light or anything like that. I mean, wow, the traffic in Cairo is crazy. Now, that first night, we didn't really get to see much traffic because, as I said, we got there at 1 a.m. So by the time we were going to the airport, it was about 2:30 a.m. And so it was kind of calm. But even then, you could see that the driving there was pretty, what I would like to call organized chaos. Okay? And the funny thing is, I did not witness that one accident. I mean, the driving was ridiculous. There was a lot of close calls, but no actual accidents. It's like, wow. Oh my God. So yeah, so he basically went over the itinerary with us. And then when we got to our hotel, and the first hotel we stayed at was the Marriott Mena House. OMG. When I tell you that hotel is breathtaking, it is breathtaking. Okay. So when we got to the hotel, he got our documents and he checked us in and made sure we had everything that we needed. And we kind of just sat there and waited for him to do all the work. And then when he was done, he gave us our keys and they took our luggage up to the room and we went to bed. The room at the Marriott Mena House was nice. On the balcony, you could see the pyramids. You could see 2 of the Giza pyramids. Now, remember, it is Giza, Giza, not Gaza. Completely different areas. Gaza is not in Egypt. So, yeah, we could see those pyramids from our hotel room, and it was breathtaking to see. The service was impeccable. The bed was comfortable. I have no complaints about that hotel. I mean, wonderful hotel. And when I tell you the food was so good. Your girl was big backing it on this trip. Okay. Oh my God. And I think if I had to describe the food in Egypt, I would say it's a mix of different cultures. So you will have some Indian influences, some Mediterranean influences, a lot of spices, but spices to be flavorful, but not hot, right? It was really good food. It was really good food. Yeah. Oh, can't. I mean, at that hotel, at the Marriott Mena House, we had like, for breakfast, there was like typical like breakfast food. Like, you know, you had your eggs. You would not find any pork. There was no pork anywhere in Egypt. It is a predominantly Muslim country, so there was no pork anywhere. But they had like beef bacon. They had, you know, different things like that, different pastries and stuff like that. A lot of baklava, things like that. And then I know for like some dinner choices, we had butter chicken, we had lamb chops. I mean, there were some really good choices of food there. Oh my God. Oh, I gained 7 pounds on that trip. 7 pounds. So enough about that. You can tell I enjoyed the food, right? So enough about that. After that, the next day, our tour coordinator, he met us the next morning at 9 a.m. sharp. Our tour coordinator was there to greet us, introduce us to our tour guide and our driver, and then we were off. Our tour guide, he was also phenomenal. When I say he was great, he was great. He was very knowledgeable and he talked and had a great personality. It wasn't like snore. He really, you know, was very excited to listen to. You could tell that he was very proud of the Egyptian culture and really wanted to to educate others about his culture, and it was great. It was great to listen to him. So we went to the Giza pyramids that day. He got our tickets. So that's the thing. Everything was included in this trip. So we never had to take any money out and buy any tickets or anything like that. All of that stuff was provided and already prepaid for with our package. So he got our tickets, and then he took us through like the museum portion, or I guess you can call the visitor area of the pyramids, and he kind of walked us through the history, tell us about the different pyramids that were there, for which kings the pyramids were built. He also went ahead and told us about how they found that they built the pyramids, the tools that they used, and kind of educated about us about that. And so when we finally went to go visit the pyramids, we kind of already had an idea of what we were about to see. Now, they do have a new system there at the Giza pyramids where you go through the visitor center, and from the visitor center you get on these buses, and the buses take you to the different areas within, I guess, that tourist attraction, which is pretty much the desert, right? So the bus takes you to the first area, and the first area was an area where you can get off and you will see all 3 pyramids, and you're able to take pictures, things like that, if you so choose. They had some locals there with their camels, that if you wanted to take pictures with the camels or go on a camel ride to the pyramids and stuff like that, you were able to do that. And yes, your girl went on a camel. I did. I had originally said I was not going to go on a camel, but I could not have gone that far and not actually go on a camel. And let me tell you something, it's not what you think. I mean, the getting on and off wasn't bad, but when you get on, the camel is basically kneeling, and then once you get on, the camel rises, and oh my god, you have to really hang on, and you kind of have to lean back so you don't get jerked forward. And but the owner of the camel was very nice in giving me directions and making sure that I didn't fall off. And once you get on it, oh my god, it's high. And then once the camel goes back down to kneel for you to get off, that's a whole nother ordeal. Oh my god, it felt like a roller coaster ride, but I am so glad that I was brave enough to do it. My husband was like, heck to the no, I am good. So we did that, and then we were able to go to the pyramids. We did go into one of the pyramids. We were not able to fully explore the inside of the pyramid because, believe it or not, to go inside the pyramids, once you go inside, you kind of have to crawl. It was not a lot of headspace, and for someone of my husband's height, it was just going to be too cumbersome in such small spaces. So we decided not to go any further, but we did go into the pyramids, and we took pictures and stuff like that. We were also able to go see the Sphinx, and our guide was able to tell us about it and what it meant, and all that wonderful stuff, and take some cool pictures. It was wonderful. That day it was not too hot because we went earlier in the morning, and it was actually a very breezy day. So that day, I mean, it wasn't bad. I think the most grueling thing about that day is when you're walking to and from the various pyramids and the Sphinx, you're walking through desert, and there's a lot of gravel, and the ground is uneven, so you do have to watch your step. Also, getting on and off the bus, the steps are pretty high. So that was, for somebody like me and my husband who got bad knees, that was the most grueling part of that portion of the tour. But other than that, it was a very comfortable tour. It didn't last too long. We were in and out of there in like 2 hours, right? After that, again, because these were personalized tours and with a personalized guide, we were able to kind of make some changes and tell him what we were interested in. And one of the things that my husband was interested in is going to see their jewelry. So Egypt is known for their cotton, their paper, right? They were the original makers or inventors of the papyrus or paper, and their essential oils, their spices, and their gold, right? So they have a lot of jewelry makers in Egypt, and the prices of gold there is much more affordable than it is here in the United States. So my husband was very interested in exploring that, and so we let our tour guide know, and he was gracious enough to take us to a reputable jewelry store or jewelry maker, so that we can explore whatever options that they had there. We did visit 2 different jewelry makers, because my husband loved to haggle. He loved to compare prices. He wants to find a good deal. So we did visit 2 different jewelry makers, and we did purchase items from both places. And it was definitely a great experience. One of the things in Egyptian culture is the cartouche. Cartouches is basically like a nameplate where the kings and queens of Egypt used to write their name in hieroglyphics. And so when going to Egypt, you're able to get a cartouche with your name engraved in hieroglyphics, and you can get it in gold, you can get it in silver, you can get it in a mixed metal, and you can get it in different designs. They really can personalize it to what you want. And so that was something that we definitely wanted to get while we were there. And so my husband was able to definitely purchase some items that he wanted, and we were able to get some gifts for friends and or daughters and things like that. And I will insert pictures of some items. What else? Also, you have to be careful for scammers, right? So there are a lot of people there that they're just trying to make a buck. They're poor and they're trying to make a sale and provide for their family. So a lot of times they may try to send you inauthentic goods. And so having a personal guide to kind of help you through that and navigate through that was definitely a plus. At no point did I feel unsafe. Now, because these people are trying to make a living, they do tend to follow you. They do tend to try to, say things to you. Like they tend to call the women Shakira, or they will say cousin, because, we are darker complexion. We're black. So with us being black and the original Egyptians are what they will call Nubians, which are black people. They would say hello cousin, and they would try to get your attention, and hi Habibi. Like Habibi is like a term of endearment, and they're try to get your attention so that they can make a sale, and they will follow you to try to make a sale, not trying to be dangerous or anything like that, but just trying to make a buck. But having a personalized tour guide, he was able to tell them, no, thank you, it's like, shukra habibi. He told me to say that, shukra habibi. So they know that, I'm not interested, but thank you anyway. So that was great. And then we also got to go to a factory and they show us how they make the papyrus from the plant and make that original paper and stuff like that. So that was cool too. And then after we did all that, he took us out for lunch and we were able to sit and eat. Now, in Egypt, it's very cultural in that they like to break bread with you. So that's their way of telling you that they appreciate you being there, and they're showing their hospitality. I don't know, it's like in America, Southern people, if you go to their house and they offer you a drink of water or they offer you some juice or a plate of food, it would be like kind of rude for you to say no. It's kind of like that in Egypt. But we all know, you do not drink the water in Egypt. So in every place we went, they were very mindful to give us bottled water at all times. So that was the first day, well, not the first day, but the first tour day. And then from there, we went back to the hotel. I was able to relax, have dinner, stuff like that. And then we prepared to leave to go to the airport for our plane trip to Aswan the next day. Now, let me tell you something. I think that airline was called Egypt Air. When I tell you, on that plane, I felt like I was in the 1970s. And I wasn't even born in the 70s. I was born in the 80s. But I felt like I was in the 1970s on that plane. When I tell you that plane was old, that plane was old. That was an experience. OMG, that was an experience. Oh, jeez. And then when we got to Aswan, that airport there, yeah. Now, I am born and raised in Kingston, Jamaica. That airport wasn't it. But we arrived safely. Everything was good. And when we got to the Aswan airport, again, we had somebody greet us there from Emeco Travel that helped us check in and get our bags, and then took us to our another person on the outside who drove us from the airport to the Sonesta St. George, right? So this part of the trip was basically a Nile cruise. And this part of the trip was amazing. Now, the Sonesta St. George, I would say it was an older boat, but even though it was an older boat, it was nice. It was very elegant, very traditionally decorated, I would say. And the service was impeccable. All meals and beverages, non-alcoholic beverages were included in that cruise. And the food was great, and they were very, very attentive. They wanted you to eat, okay? And if we stayed in our room and we missed breakfast or we missed lunch, they were calling our room and asking us, hey, are you guys okay? Do you want us to bring the food to your room? Do you not like the food? We can always make you something you like. When I tell you, wonderful service. Now, while on the Nile cruise, we did make some stops along the Nile, and we did have another tour guide there. And in this part of the trip, we were in a small group of only like 8 people. Now, granted, there was only about 18 people on the whole cruise, so you got a lot of personalized service. But when we went out on the tours, it was about 8 people. And our tour guide was very nice, very knowledgeable, and we got to see a bunch of temples and different parts there. I would say the most interesting, one of the stops that we made while we were on the cruise, we had to take basically a horse and buggy ride to one of the temples. And this was interesting. It was very interesting because like some of them horses looked like they were struggling. Them horses look like donkeys. Like they looked like they were struggling. Okay. And what else? And then they were like, I don't know, they were like racing. It was funny. I don't know. I didn't even know how to explain that portion, but it was quite interesting. It was a quite interesting portion of the trip. But we did see the temples and, walk around, throughout the tours, they would give us, some history lessons, tell us what everything meant and, so on and so forth. And then give you personal time for you to walk around on your own and take your pictures and stuff like that. When we got to Luxor, our tour guide, he is from Luxor, Egypt. So this was home for him. And this is where I would say the most interesting part of the cruise or the tours from the cruise had taken place, because we went to the Valley of the Kings and then we went to the Valley of the Queens. And on these tours, we were able to go down into the tombs and see them and see all the hieroglyphics and the art and the architecture that they had. And it was so impressive to see this that was done years upon years ago. It was very interesting. But I will have to say that part of the trip was the most grueling part of the trip, because by then it was hot. It was hot. One day it was 105 degrees, another day it was 109 degrees. And then when you're going down into the tombs, it gets even hotter because it's so humid and there's no air circulation. And then to go down into the tombs, like one of them, it was like 162 steps straight down. So that part of the trip, I have to say, was probably the most physically grueling, and because of the heat, as well as the amount of walking and up and down stairs that you had to do. But when I tell you, it was also one of the most impressive parts of the trips and very humbling parts of the trips to see. It definitely was. Very, very enjoyable. Very enjoyable. Tony said the Valley of the Kings took him out. Tony, you done?
I am done. Go home.
Tony said, put me on the bus.
I don't have to see nothing else, do nothing else. This is a vacation, not I'm working this summer. I don't need to play them.
Listen, that was good. It was an experience. Right? You don't think it was an experience?
Yeah, it was.
After that, we then met with another driver that took us in a personal car from Luxor to Hurghada. And this is when the trip got a little dicey for us. The drive to Hurghada was a 4-hour drive. It was scenic. It was nice. We did get to stop and use the bathroom and, get some refreshments and stuff like that. And again, I say at every tour, every trip, every part of it, they always had cold bottled water available for us. So that was great. But we did get to stop, stretch our legs, and then continue on that drive. When we got to the Hurghada, we met up with our coordinator there from Emeco. He kind of helped us check into the hotel and kind of told us, what to expect, and as well as when our trip from that part was over, what time we would be picked up to be taken back to the airport, so on and so forth. This part of the trip was supposed to be like the relaxing part of the trip, right? This part of the trip wasn't about tours or anything like that. It was more just about just kicking back and relaxing on the beach, right? So, there was not much to go over, but he was there and was, if we needed anything or wanted to do anything, he was there to provide that for us. Now, this hotel was disappointing. It was. I want to say it was an older hotel. And then after coming from the Marriott Mena House and the Sonesta St. George, where the accommodations was like 5-star impeccable, the service was impeccable, and then going to this hotel, it was like a little bit like a drop, right? It was a little bit of disappointing. When we checked into our room, we had a suite, and the suite was filthy. It looked like the room was not cleaned at all. It was filthy and very disappointing. So I called down to the front desk to ask them to change our room and let them know that the room wasn't cleaned. And the front desk person was quite dismissive. They were like, "I'm sorry, we're fully booked. Try again tomorrow," and hung up the phone on me. They did not offer to have somebody come up and clean the room. They did not offer anything. So I took pictures of the room and I sent it to the coordinator that met us there and let him know about what was going on. And I tell you, within 15 minutes, the front desk called the room and told us that they had another room available. So that was like the benefit of having those coordinators there, because if not, they would have left us in a dirty room. And I always bring Clorox wipes with me whenever I travel, but I rarely feel the need to use them. I used those wipes and I still didn't want to sit down. No, that's how bad it was for me. So they switched their rooms, but when they switched their rooms, they put us in a room that was not a suite. It was an ordinary room. It had a nice view, but it wasn't a suite. But we were already too tired because we had went on a tour in Luxor earlier that day and then had the 4-hour drive. So I didn't feel like arguing anymore. I was just happy to get out of that filthy room. So we spent the night in that room, but then there was no AC. Well, I shouldn't say that. There was AC, but the AC wouldn't go down past a certain temperature, so it was hot. Y'all, we're already in Egypt. It's already hot. Now, granted, Hurghada is a lot cooler than it was in Luxor, but it was hot. It was hot. So I emailed my travel agent back in the United States, and she got back to me immediately. And I don't know what she did or who she contacted, but I can tell you the next morning, my coordinator from Emeco in Hurghada, as well as the manager of the hotel, called and wanted to meet up with me, and they offered if we wanted to switch hotels or we could get upgraded to the presidential suite. And guess where the presidential suite was? Right next door. I thought the hotel was fully booked and it didn't have any extra rooms. Anyways, we didn't want to go through the whole hassle of switching hotels and then being disappointed, so we just chose to go to the presidential suite, and they offered us like a reservation at the restaurant, and then we had room service and all that stuff. I mean, they were trying to make amends, and we took it. We sure did. So the presidential suite, that room was very nice, very impressive, huge room, beautiful views. I wouldn't say it was 360 views, but I would definitely say 180 views. Definitely nice. However, you know, it was an older hotel and it needed some upgrades. It really did need some upgrades. The food at that hotel was okay compared to what we were having at the Marriott Manor House and at the Sonesta. It was lacking, but it was edible, you know. Nevertheless, we rested, we relaxed, we went to the beach, we went to the spa, and oh my God, I wish I had vlogged this. We did the Turkish baths, and when I tell you that lady bathed me like I was her child. Oh my God, that was a definite experience. I wish I could do one of those at least once a month. Oh my God, it was such a relaxing, rejuvenating experience. That spa, Turkish bath treatment, wonderful. Anyway, that part of the trip came to an end, and we traveled back from Hurghada back to Cairo. Again, someone met us at the airport, and then we met our original coordinator that met us at the beginning of the trip. He came and met us at the airport, again checked on us, made sure we were okay, and asked us about the rest of the trip. We told him what happened at the other hotel and everything, and he was so gracious and so nice. And we went to our next hotel, which was the Kapitsky Nile Hotel. Now, they said that this hotel wouldn't be as nice as the Marriott Manor House, but I beg to differ. That hotel was awesome. It was beautiful. Oh my God, it was so impressive, and the service was again impeccable. Oh my God, we thoroughly enjoyed that hotel. The rooms were great, clean, great accommodations. They had, I want to say 2 or 3 restaurants on site. They also had like a rooftop bar. I particularly loved the artwork that was being displayed throughout the hotel. Oh my God, that hotel was great. I would have mind staying at the hotel the entire time. It was beautiful hotel. We were able to eat at one of the restaurants there. Yes, we went to a Turkish restaurant at that hotel, and they did a whole traditional Turkish, what do we call that? I don't know what to call it, but what they do is that they wash your hands prior to serving a meal, and the water is jasmine infused, so it smells great, and the ambiance of the restaurant was great. And oh my God, again, the food. We had some stewed oxtails and roasted vegetables. It was, I'm telling you, I big backed it. I really did. I big backed it. That's why I gained 7 pounds. It was so good. So good. And then the next day we went to visit the citadel and the mosque. And that was also beautiful. We were met by our original guide, and so I was so happy to see him because he's such a vibe. And he took us around there. He suggested some great pictures, took pictures for us. I mean, I love him. Oh, I love him. And then after we left there, we went to a family-owned store that sells essential oils, and they gave us a presentation and told us about all the different oils and what they're used for, and we were able to to smell each one and make choices. And we did order some oils that they were able to ship for us back home, which I must say we got them within 7 days, right? So that was pretty good, and it was not of any extra cost to ship it. So that was good. And then again, we went to have lunch, and this time we went to have lunch on like a boat that was stationary, and the meal was great. The food was definitely great. And then we said bye to our wonderful guide Marco and went back to our hotel so that we could prepare to come back home. So that was pretty much our trip, right? I mean, there's so much more I could tell you about our trip. We had some wonderful people along the way. We had some wonderful experiences along the way. There's no way I could tell you about each and everything that occurred on the trip, but this is just a general synopsis of it. It was safe. It was definitely top tier. Even though we had that hiccup with that hotel, the travel agency, as well as our travel agent back home, they got on it immediately and rectified the situation immediately. I mean, no complaints. Absolutely no complaints. I definitely would visit Egypt again. I probably would make some adjustments to the trip. I want to wait till my girls are old enough to go and able to appreciate, learn about the history, and can remember everything that they see. And so, but I would probably make some adjustments to that trip. Mostly probably stick to Cairo and do the pyramids, and probably do the new Grand Museum that is now they're finishing to build in Cairo, which will be the largest museum in the world and is promised to be quite impressive and enjoyable to see. So definitely I would take them there, and we'll just see the pyramids and go into the different museums and learn about the essential oils and the papyrus and the hieroglyphics and stuff like that, and go into the bazaar. Those things are just enough for what my girls will need to see. definitely a lot for my girls to see. So I am looking forward to planning that trip maybe in another 5 years or so for them. Um, what else? I don't know. Is there anything else you would like to know? Um, oh, I can tell you the currency in Egypt is the Egyptian pound. The if I'm trying to see about the currency exchange, $1 is equal to about 50 Egyptian pounds. The cost of food is definitely very affordable in Egypt. Um, just prices on a whole is much more affordable there. It was very safe. They are aware of what's going on in their neighboring countries, and so they are very intent in keeping their tourists and their nationals safe. Um, what else? I don't know. Tell me if there's anything else you want to know, and I will definitely try to answer your comments in the questions. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it wasn't too boring for you. I hope you found it insightful and inspirational. I hope you will plan a trip to Egypt so you can learn about this beautiful culture. There's so much to learn about the Egyptian culture. There is so many influences from the Nubians, the original Egyptians, to the Greek involvement, the Roman involvement, and the Arabic involvement. It's a lot. It's a very eclectic culture in Egypt. And so let me know if there's anything else you want to know. And if you enjoyed this video, please do not forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you have already subscribed to my channel, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. If you have not yet subscribed, what are you waiting on? Come on, join our family. We would love to have you. All right, I'll see you in the next one.
Hi, did you like my mommy's video? Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. She'll be really happy. Bye!
Bye.